Thank you, everyone. Hello, my name is Lucas. I'm an historian, and actually, I'm the director of museology at the Museum of the Person. First of all, my connection is really bad today, so if we have problem, stay here. I will be back. Okay. So my speech today, my presentation, it's about the life story as World Heritage. So I seek to propose a reflection and briefly present a partnership that we are beginning to build together with the WIC movement here in Brazil. So I'm especially grateful to João and Marília for all the support, patience, and attention they have given to us since the beginning, and to you, Victor and Amanda, too. So my presentation will not be about technical details, but about why we believe in partnering with the WIC movement and why it's so meaningful to us, why we really believe that it can change things for us. But first of all, I want to introduce you to the Museum of the Person, or Museu da Pessoa, here in Brazil. The Museum of the Person is dedicated to the recording, preservation, and dissemination of life stories. Is one of the first virtual museums in the world, founded in 1991. And this is interesting because it already leads us to an expansion of the concept of network, since the museum comes at a time when the commercial internet was still taking its first steps, and in a way it had not even arrived in Brazil. So how can we say it was a virtual museum? The idea of an open museum built on a network, and that would allow in the widest possible way the participation of the public as creators of its collections, lead us to rethink concepts of space, collection, and preservation. New technologies at the time, and incipient, were definitive for the establishment of our work assumptions. The process of collection, production, and organization of life narrative leads us to discuss what the headquarters of the museum should be. Narratives are intangible objects by their very nature, so it was not up to us to transform them into three-dimensional objects, or even to concentrate them in a given space, in a physical space. So our first conclusion was that this headquarters should be virtual, a database organized in such a way as to allow wide use by the Museum of the Person team, as well as by the public. Our task was to identify the most diverse opportunities for capturing and using these stories. Its dissemination on the net, on the internet from the beginning, was our option. So the collection, in this sense, could not be physical. The support should be digital, and a way to make the content available as wide as possible. Our goal was to promote different uses of these stories, making them part of everyday life in our society. And this obsessive use made us explore and identify opportunities to capture testimonials and disseminate content in almost banal spaces in our society. Thus, we conceived since the beginning the video testimonial booths, cabins that in an itinerant way circulated around the city of São Paulo here in Brazil, in subway stations, malls, bus stations, and public squares. Later, the same itinerant cabins toured numerous cities across the country, even being installed on oil platforms in the middle of the sea. So, conceptualizing what we understood by collection of this museum was our second question, because how to define which people and which stories should be collected and preserved? What should be our procedures for selecting, evaluating, and handling these stories? What could make historical sense? If our premise was that this history of each and every person, as long as they wanted, should be considered part of our heritage, we do not have the traditional role of museum curators. The multiplicity of life narratives should be our guideline. So our role was to capture, organize, preserve, connect the stories, and return them to the society. The big question was not what to consider part of our collection, but how to encourage the practice of recording and using life stories in most varied sectors of society. And in that sense, the arrival of the internet was the key to solving the equation. Since 1995, as you can see in this photograph of our collection, Museum of the Person has received stories from users and has already made them available to the public through its home, a virtual platform. So currently, the Museum of the Person has several ways to capture its collections of life stories. Our site, so it's the main entry point for new stories in the collection. So it takes place in two different formats: the digital platform, so you have the bus show you how to tell your story or to tell the story of someone of your family, your community, and you can do that by using video, audio, or text. And have an open studio program, so anyone can sign up for free for an interview at the physical studio of the Museum of the Soul in São Paulo, but we can go after you also. You can go to your home projects. So interviews within the scope of research projects carried out by the museum's team. And we have also record booths, that expeditions that take the museum to interview people in many different places. In this photograph, we have the cabin, you have some kind of exhibition of life stories, and inside the cabin it's a record studio, and it's very easy to transport this structure and place you want. And after all of these types of recording, we have also the dissemination of the methodology. So training via courses and segmented training of people are collecting and processing stories of their interest. So the group then became responsible for the entire process of capturing, treating, and disseminating the collected stories. So 30 years later, the origin of the museum, we have a collection with more than 80,000 life stories and more than 60,000 photos and digitized documents. But now I have to talk a little bit about the concept of museum and heritage. It will be a more historical part, but I promise it will be quick, but it's important in this presentation.